Hey everybody, we are all ready to go for a penny hunt. We have 20 rolls of pennies, we got our copper cups, we got our magnet, we got our scope, we are good to go. So my bank called me up to let me know they had pennies, a bunch of pennies. They actually had 38 rolls of pennies. Some people might ask, why aren't you going to hunt all 38 or get a box of 50? A lot of coin videos that you see, particularly out of the States, they're hunting a full box of pennies. Well, there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that pennies don't circulate here in Canada. They're very hard to come by. I've been very fortunate to get some. So I don't want to hunt them all at once. Part of the reason for that, of course, is that there's so much to find in pennies. If I were to do all 38 rolls or wait until I had 50, the video would be way too long. You'd get bored. There's just so much to look for. So 20 rolls seems to be about the right amount for a video here. So we're going to get into these. I'll set this aside. So I got a bunch of rolls here. We've got some plastic. We've got some different customer wrapped rolls. I didn't see anything crazy on the end, some US ends, but I think I looked over here and I saw that we had, no, not there. One of these had an older end. It looked like we had a George. It might be this one right here. So I think this is going to be a fun hunt to get into. So let's get started. Well, I guess I should have looked at both ends because this is a plastic roll and there is a George ender on here, and we'll flip it over. And it is a 1947. Same roll, and we got a gorgeous 1980. And if we flip it over, it's got some really interesting toning. It's still in a mint state, but you can see this side might have been an ender in a roll at some point, which is where we would see something like that. Roll number 2, and we're finding some fairly nice late 70s and 80s, but again, this one here has that same kind of toning, and I don't know if that is due to just the way it was stored. It's otherwise in nice condition. And of course, this one right behind it looks really nice. This is a 79, and we can scope that one too to see if we've got any of the doubling on the date, which we don't. But we're finding some a mix of newer and older pennies, and some of them are in decent shape. Same roll, and here's a 1981 with some really interesting dark toning. Very cool. Roll number 3, and this is the one I was trying to show earlier that has a George VI ender. It's a 1950, so hopefully he's got some friends in here. Okay, I've laid that out, and there looks to be a lot of old copper here, including some really heavily damaged coins in here, so hopefully they're not all in terrible shape. But that ender is absolutely a 1950 King George VI. We're just 3 coins into that roll, and we found something pretty awesome. This is a first year King George VI 1937 penny, and I just saw we've got another George right behind it, so we'll come to that. But there is our 1937 King George VI. What a great find in a roll of pennies. And we're going to take a look at this next one here too and see if it's also an oldie. And it's a 1951. Same roll, just 1 coin back, and we've got a 1940 here. And right behind that, we've got an Elizabeth, a 1956 laureate portrait. And it looks like we're going to have a whole string of older coins in this roll, which is pretty awesome. And that's in pretty nice shape. But we have a 1947, followed by, oh my goodness, a 1938. So we've got 2 from the 30s, a 37 and a 38, followed by a 42. Fantastic. So I just pulled off this really damaged looking something. It's Queen Elizabeth laureate portrait. It's in terrible shape. It's just going into the copper jar. But right behind it, a 1939. So we have found 37, 38, and 39 all in the same roll, and they just keep on coming. There's a 1950. Now this one's got some serious damage. A 42. A 44. A Laureate Portrait 62. We've got a 57. A really nice looking 1972, still with some mint luster. And then we got a 1967 that we can throw under the scope and see if we've got any doubling on that coin. So no doubling on the date or on Canada. And if we flip it over, I don't see any date or doubling on Regina either. Well, we're still going. A 1961 Laureate Portrait, a 41 King George. And then another Laureate Portrait back here. 59. A 56. A 53. And there's one in really nice shape here. What is that? A 1964, no surprise there. This is probably the most common year to find in really good condition, but they just keep coming. 59, 54, and then there's one with, looks like this might have been taped into an album or something. A 58. Again, it's still got some luster to it, but very clearly what we've got here is somebody's collection. That mark on the back is very much from a piece of tape that was probably keeping it sitting in a spot in a book. And that might explain why we've got a run of dates, including the 37, 38, 39. If we put them all in order, we might have one of each of them. And here we're getting to some heavily damaged coins here. Not sure what that's all about. And a 1965 that, again, we'll want to check this one to see if we've got the pointed 5. And it appears to be the blunt 5, so that's not the really rare one. And a 1963, still some luster. I don't see any tape marks on this one. And yeah, that has just been really, really cool. We'll just finish this roll off and see. There's a 52. There's some more George in here. A 45. A 60. A damaged American. A 47 Maple Leaf. A 1955. A 49, and we'll want to check for some varieties on any of these ones that have some varieties. That is a 1943, a 1940, and just a 1977. My goodness. Okay, this is really incredible. We found a coin from every year from 37 all through the 40s. The only one we didn't get was a 1946 and a 1948. But we got everything through the 50s, just at least one of each, in some cases a couple, and into the 60s up until 65. Some of these coins appear to have some mint luster and be in almost uncirculated condition, but have some environmental damage or toning. So for instance, that 58 is a really good example of one that still has some mint luster. When this got put in the album, it probably looked as shiny as that part you can see where there was either tape or glue, and the just environmental conditions and being subject to air and oxidation would have caused toning. But many of them are actually in fairly nice condition. And some are not. Some are obviously fairly circulated and show some dirt and wear. But this might very well have been somebody's collection dump. Roll number 4, another 1962. This one has got some gunk or damage on it, though. Same roll, I got a 1979 under the scope. It's not in great shape, but it is definitely the double 7-9 variety. You can see the doubling on both of these numbers. Same roll a little further back, another Laureate Portrait this time, a 62. We're in roll number 5, and we're going to have a couple finds because here's a 1979 under the scope, and it is another double 7-9. But right behind that in the roll is another 1947 King George VI penny. And a little further back, we've got a 1960. Roll number 6, and this one says American on it. And so, that wouldn't be all that surprising if this ended up being a full roll of US pennies, because we're so close to the border and these circulate a lot. Somebody's obviously sorted some of these out. I don't know if these all came from the same person or same people or different people, but we'll see what we got in here. Maybe we'll find a wheat cent if we're lucky. I am just a few coins in, and so far everything has been American. And I see something here that is just incredible. Have a look at this edge. The second one in, I didn't quite notice it, but as I started to flip, it looks a little bit different. And this is insane. I never would have thought that we could find, this is a 1943 steel cent. I only recently got my first steely in a trade with one of my subscribers. I have never obviously come across a steel cent in a Canadian coin roll hunt. Of course, this is a roll of American coins. That is just crazy. It's a 1943 Philadelphia steel wheat cent. Just incredible. I know these are really hard to come by even in US coin roll hunts, and so this is just crazy. Still in roll number 6, no other wheat cents yet, but I just pull you in because I got a really nice looking copper cent, a 1973 Philadelphia, that is probably quite an upgrade for me. And so I'll have a look and compare this to my own book. Same roll, and so far just one lone Canadian cent in the bunch, and I just checked it and there's no doubling on this guy. Roll 7 is going to give us another older Elizabeth, and this one, it is older. This is a 1953. So I've got this under the scope so we can see if it is the shoulder fold or no shoulder fold variety. It appears to be the no shoulder fold. That's the more common one, and we can always check that by looking at the eye in Die Gratia. And this one has the serif, the pointed ends of the eye. So this is the no shoulder fold variety, the common variety for 1953. And I've just pulled the other 53 that we found just to check it because we hadn't looked at it yet. And it also is the no shoulder fold. Again, you can see that eye has the points on it. We may as well check our 54 and 55 that we got earlier too. We haven't done that yet. So this is our 54 that is under the scope, and this one is the shoulder fold variety. And we can tell that because we don't have quite the flared out ends of the eye. Now, of course, if I look down, it's really hard to see and make that out. You might possibly be able to see some of it, but it's really hard to tell. That's why the lettering is one of the easier ways to make that distinction. And here's our 1955, which is also the shoulder fold common variety, as witnessed by the slimmer eye. Same roll, we found a really nice looking 1977 to add to our finds. Just a little further back, and look at this gorgeous 1978. And right behind that 78, we got ourselves a 1962, and we can see another bright and shiny one here, a 71, kind of red-brown. And the hits keep on coming. Here's a really nice looking 1979 in that same roll. And still in that same roll, we got another one. This one is another 1962. These are not in the best of shape. Otherwise, what I would be doing with all of these is checking to see if we have the hanging two variety. I'll probably check them all anyway. We would see a die clash, which is really an imprint of the queen's neck on the other side. We would see that sort of below here. It almost looks like we've got doubling on this too, but I think it is really just some damage on the coin. The other thing we can check in the 1962 is the harp or guitar variety. There's a variety that shows some lines coming down from the one to the maple leaf, and we don't have that here either. Still in the same roll, we found a 1978 with some minor doubling. And again, this is just a sort of a die deterioration doubling, but we can see it clearly on the 9. If it wasn't for the damage on the coin and the environmental concerns, we'd probably see it at the base of the 8 and at the base of the 7. Typically, that's what you see is either 1, 2, or 3, or in sometimes 4 numbers having doubling. Here we can really see it pronounced on the 9. Nothing terribly special, not terribly valuable, but just something interesting I look for when I'm looking at these coins. A lot of newer coins in roll number 8, but just towards the back, we've got another 1957. Not only does roll number 9 apparently have the lucky bird feather in here, which I can only mean good things, we've actually also got a dime. So we are ahead of the game, and it is going to be a 1977, in pretty good shape too. And the first find of that roll, 1979 under the scope, and check out that doubling. This is the double 979 variety. And in that same roll, we got a really nice looking 1981. And just a little further back, we've got another laureate portrait this time. It's a 1962. And still in that same roll, another really nice looking 1980. And we've got a 67 commemorative we can check. Lots of mint luster on this one, but no doubling on that side. And we'll flip it. And no doubling there either, unfortunately. Same roll and another gorgeous 1980. Finding lots of really nice looking copper cents. And in that same roll, we found another doubled date variety of the 1979. The double 79, you can see clearly the doubling on the 9. And if I turn my monitor back on, you'll see there's doubling at the base of the 7 as well. So that's really cool. And right behind that doubled 1979 is a 1962. So we're finding a lot of 62s in these rolls for sure. This is probably our 6th or 7th. Still in roll number 10, we've got our second wheat set of the hunt to go along with our 1943 Philadelphia steel cent. This one is a 1946 Philadelphia. Just cracked open roll number 11. It's one of those plastic rolls, and so we're halfway through this, what is already an epic hunt. It looks like we've got another full roll of US coins. Again, never really a shock when we see that here. I'll let you in if we find anything older or interesting in this roll. Well, we did find something older and interesting in here. So far, everything's been US, but we're halfway through, and we found a King George VI, and this one looks like it might have been dug up in the garden or something. It's got some dirt and grime on it, but that's another find for the board. And not to mention, one of the few King George VI pennies that we hadn't yet found. The only one we're missing still is the 1948. Otherwise, we have found one from every year. And just our second Canadian penny of this roll is going to prove to be another oldie, a 1964. Well, good thing we found that dime earlier, because if the writing on this roll is any indication, we might have just been shorted a penny. It looks like there might only be 49 cents in here. Well, we can see we're going to find a lot of Americans here in here, but we are going to find a really nice looking 1975 as well. Roll number 13 is another roll of mostly American cents, but here's a 2020, and I'm pretty sure I haven't found one of these just yet. Well, we're already in roll number 16, and things had slowed down a fair bit, but we got ourselves another 1964 laureate portrait with Queen Elizabeth. Roll number 17 gives us another 1964. Roll 19, and we've got our fifth 1964 of the hunt, so we're getting down to the end. Slowed down a fair bit. We haven't had the parade of nice copper cents like we had earlier, or the potential collection dump that gave us basically almost everything right from 1937. We got one more roll to go. Hopefully we got some more goodies. Partway through roll 20, and we've got a nice looking 1975. It's like some red brown, I guess. I'll just check it to see if it's better than what I have in my album. We don't find too many older copper cents so shiny here north of the border. And just a couple of coins behind that one, we've got another laureate portrait. I wonder if it is another 1964, because that's what we've been finding in these rolls. No, this time it's a 1962. I've just thrown one of those 1962s under the scope because I wanted to look to see if we had any of the hanging number die clash varieties, and we found that here. We've got a 1962 hanging 2. That's the die clash. That is actually the neckline of the queen. So the die from the other side has hit that die, so no planchet was in it, and has left this die clash right here. And this is really common from the 50s into the 60s on most of the Canadian pennies. But we've got it right here, the 1962 Hanging 2. So here is your wrap up. We've gone through 20 rolls of customer wrapped pennies, and we did really, really well. About 2/3 of our Canadian finds were all copper, and about a third were zinc or steel. We found a fair number of US coins. This is all of our zinc cent discard pile here. And towards the back is our copper cent pile, about 40 some. We did find some nicer copper examples. You'll see a 67, a 68, 73, and a 75. I'm going to check against my book. And a couple of newer zinc cents, a 2020 and a 1995 that is in pretty good shape. That's a Denver. I'll check against my album. I don't think I've got a 2020. Of course, we found that 1977 10 cents. But for our other finds, we had some really interesting stuff. So I'll just start here at the bottom. And we found a number of 1979 and 78 double dates. So we got 5 of those in total. And then through the 70s and 80s, I just kind of picked out the best looking bunch, or the ones that had some interesting toning too. Might not keep all of them. You can see that 75, for instance, has some very interesting toning. But where it gets really interesting is into our 60s and earlier. We got 17 1960s laureate portrait pennies. You'll see right from the 1960, we got 61, 62, 63, 64. We got everything. In the 50s, we got one from every year as well, including from the 1950, 51, and 52. Those are all King George VI. And then the 53 through to 59, we found a bunch. In the 40s, we got everything in the 40s except for the 48. So we got everything through to the 49. That 49 was the common A pointing between decimals. I didn't show it on the screen, but that's just the common variety. And then this is where it gets really awesome. We found the 37, the 38, the 39. So essentially, we got every modern Canadian penny from 37 up, except for the 48. And we also got 2 wheat cents. And I think our find of the day is that 1943 steel wheat penny. That's something I wouldn't have ever thought I would get in a Canadian roll. And of course, we got that 1946. So that was a super phenomenal hunt with so many finds in 20 rolls of pennies. I hope you enjoyed that really crazy penny hunt. If you did, please give the video a like. Please hit the subscribe button. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, CAD Roll Hunter, please do that. That would be great. And hit the notification icon so that you can see when my new videos are coming out. I have new videos coming out all the time. I thank you so much for joining. I really do. And we hope to see you again soon.